Okay, let's go. I'm Steve Strom. I'm a retired astronomer, and I'm currently indulging in a nearly lifelong passion in photography. Photography normally in service of environmental causes, or you might call it fine art, if you will. All right. I'll just never forget the first time I was held up, lifted up over a tray filled with Developer and under the red safe light and watched an image emerge. It was literally a magical experience, at least at that age. My dad also let me use his twin lens reflex when I was young, and so at age 7 I had access both to a telescope and to a camera, and I think, both of those experiences were formative, to say the least.
For decades, Steve Strom spent untold hours staring into space studying distant stars. While astronomy was his profession, photography continued to speak to him. Now he turns his focus to wide-open landscapes.
I like remote places where I'm divorced from anything other than my sensory experiences. I like the places to be open, revealing, places that bring you to some primitive state.
Strom's background in astronomy and his passion for remote, expansive imagery merged when his son-in-law teased that images being produced by spacecraft on Mars looked a lot like his photographs of Earth's desert landscapes.
I started to see that these landscapes on Mars could be paired with my own, and I spent the next several years systematically going through images taken with the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and going through my database of terrestrial images and pairing them, and they were paired with several things in mind. The first criterion was aesthetic, and I had a large number of pairs which looked aesthetically similar patterns, either chromatic or sculptural. Then what I did was to say, well, that's all fine and good, but let's see whether they could tell a story. And what I did was to then say, well, which of these patterns were produced by similar physical forces at work on the surfaces of the two planets? And with that in mind, I was able to hone down the set considerably and show visually how water and wind and volcanic activities shape the surfaces of Earth and Mars.
Strom has paired his images from Earth with those taken by Mars spacecraft to create a book that invites contemplation about how the planets were formed. He teamed with astronomer and planetary scientist Bradford Smith, whose essays explain the forces that left Earth full of life and Mars dry and barren.
The book Earth and Mars is intended to appeal at multiple levels. First, I would hope that the visual pairings would be sufficiently seductive and provocative that people would want to know, okay, these are interesting pairings. Wow, that looks really fascinating or beautiful and so on. I would hope they would say, I wonder how that came to be. The left-hand image here is a crater on the surface of Mars. It's probably 1/10 to 2/10 of a mile in diameter, and you can see a little bit of carbon dioxide ice. The right-hand side is an image of a crater on Earth taken from the International Space Station. It's a crater located in Africa. Both images speak to the continuing role of bombardment from external bodies, in this case, asteroids. These images both illustrate the effects of flowing water on the surfaces of both Mars and Earth. The left-hand image covers about 1/2 mile on the Martian surface, and those same fractal features are mimicked on the right-hand side by this image taken of a few feet on an Oregon beach. Am I an artist or an astronomer? I can't answer that. I'm both. And I'm somebody who can become equally passionate about a landscape and lose myself in a landscape. And I can become equally intrigued with a question that somehow compels my imagination and then my analytic side.